Hey, I'm Philip Kobe, and this is The Hobby Shop. I'm here with
Robert, Don,
Aaron.
And today we're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the new movie, and also adaptations. So, how many of you guys have seen the new trailer?
Well, it would just be you three, because, I was out over here messing with everything, so...
Yeah, sorry about that.
I've been watching it since the first teaser trailer very closely and scrutinizing it.
To me, I just find it as another, Michael Bay film. Doesn't really pique interest in me, honestly.
It's got explosions. It's got everything you want in one movie.
Oh.
It's that man part in your brain is just like, yes, 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 yes. But then your other side's like, I don't want to put money into this stuff.
No. No,
Like, just watch it for free. Come on. What are you going to be doing? You're going to be on your computer, just like, I'm bored. I'm doing nothing. I should be watching a movie.
Doing my other hobbies.
Well, you could be catching up on manga, reading stuff, watching new episodes of animes. I mean, there's tons of things you could be doing. Why waste your time with something you don't want to do if you don't want to do it?
But it's just that appeal, though. Explosions. It's an hour of just you either making fun of it or laughing at it.
Yeah, but let's just say you're not a person that likes explosions, for example. It's not your thing. It's not something that turns you on to wanting to watch a movie. Then if it doesn't have what you want in it, and it's a movie you're not interested in, there's no point in it then. Because you're just going to waste it, and afterwards you're like, oh, that's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. I could have been doing this, or that.
But
or
that's
resting.
why you watch it online, so you can cut through it to the parts you want to see.
That's true. Or for me, if I was going to do that, I would just look up certain scenes on YouTube, like, Leonardo versus Shredder final fight play. You can do that.
That's if you can find the video, though. So that's why I'm just just watch it. Skip any of the parts you don't want to watch. Your time, your place. You make whatever you want.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say is your experience with Ninja Turtles?
Just watched the movies when I was a kid. That's about it. Didn't really get into the comic books. Wasn't really part of my childhood.
Well, it's kind of half and half. Cause I remember watching the cartoon on Cartoon Network. If I recall, it was on Cartoon Network, right?
Not as far as I know. I don't know.
They show.
I've seen the cartoon.
Are you talking? Which one are you talking about?
There's the old goofy one from the 80s, and there's
It wasn't the old goofy one.
Then there's a newer one from the early 2000s.
I think it was around the 2000s, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, they showed them on Cartoon Network for a short time. I think it was part of that Magoozy time slot.
Was it Magoozy?
It was Magoozy, I believe. The time slot that replaced Tsunami during the weekday afternoons. Mm-hmm. But yes, that was on Cartoon Network at one point. It started off on Fox Kids, or what was it?
Fox.
Fox.
Yeah.
For me, I grew up with the Turtles. It was a big part of my childhood. I watched it. I had tapes when I was a kid. I used to watch them over and over again. I had action figures with my brothers, and I used to play with them. And so it was a huge part of my life growing up because I've always been fascinated with ninjas and martial arts. And it was kind of like all of it wrapped up in one package for me. So I did like it a lot. And being that much of my childhood, it makes this movie for me something I'm going to be really critical about because it's like, this is my childhood. And if you mess it up, it's just going to destroy a lot of that for me, and I won't be able to enjoy the movie. So,
with a lot of these movies, you kind of have to let go of your nostalgia to see any merit in this movie. But considering who is a part of this,
of
that
course,
goes out the window.
Yeah.
Now, me personally, I first watched Ninja Turtles on those old VHS tapes they had for. It was like 2 episodes each on per tape. The first episode I ever saw was, I think it was about Michelangelo. That's the one that was in the comic books, right? Mm-hmm. There was an episode where he teamed up with apparently the real life version of his favorite superhero that for some reason was turning into a bug.
Oh yeah, I know. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And there's references to like Batman and all kinds of superhero comic book character references in that episode.
Yeah, that
was my introduction to Ninja Turtles. Now, one of my favorite episodes though was the last episode of the first arc when they found the Technodrome and they basically kicked down the door and basically wanted to go down there and kick Shredder's ass.
Which they did every episode repeatedly.
Well, yes, he was the laughingstock of the 80s villains. I actually enjoyed the villains more in the show than the heroes. Mm-hmm. It's just because I love the banter between Shredder and Krang.
And Bebop and Rocksteady, all that kind of just goofiness.
And I love that that Shredder was voiced by Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, that's just hilarious. You can't get better than
that. But it's funny and menacing at the same time.
Which is what made it great.
Because, he has that one line, tonight I'll dine on turtle soup. He just had like that. It was a little bit scary. I mean, for a 5-year-old, you compare him up to other '80s villains like Mum-Ra. Mum-Ra is a fucking mummy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Shredder. I used to be scared of Shredder as a kid, and then you think finally you come to a point you wake up and you realize Shredder gets his ass kicked every episode by the Turtles.
He's completely
and he's
incompetent.
a complete idiot. Why am I scared of him? He has blades, yet he has never once cut anything. He never cuts anybody. He can cut wood, but his blades are like everybody's immune to them. So it's like you kind of go, I'm not afraid of him anymore.
And he constantly is being berated by Krang, and they're basically a married couple.
Yeah,
Krang is just basically
the bitchy wife.
Yeah.
On a period 24/7,
It's like, why haven't you killed the turtles yet?
I'm trying, but I've got a new plan. This new plan will work perfectly for me. And
your plans never work.
They always work. I have the Technodrome that's massive, but I could just blast them and I never do.
We completely alienated the two other people at the table.
Well, I mean, I never watched it during that time.
It was a lot of fun. It was stupid and cheesy at times, but it was a lot of fun. It seems like he grew up more when it was still on TV. I grew up more with the VHS tapes. It was still on TV. I remember it came on every Sunday morning, right after Ghostbusters. So that's two things that was a part of my childhood: Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
you throw in Power Rangers in there, and that's basically my childhood.
Yeah, 3 great shows that nowadays we look back at them and go, oh, that's so cheesy and corny. But when you were in that time, it was the best thing you had.
Yeah,
and for kids especially, it was something really important. They were heroes you could look up to and role models. That really nowadays you don't have a whole lot of things like that because the stuff nowadays is so cheesy and cornier, which nobody looks at. It's like the stuff nowadays we look and we go, oh, how can kids watch this? This is so bad. At least when we were kids, we had these cool heroes to look up to that we knew were cool. These guys are just dorks.
See, I have not watched a whole lot of more modern shows, so I have nothing against. I got nothing to
Nothing to give or accurate opinion of it.
Yeah, there's a few newer shows I watched, and a lot of people say, "Oh, everything was better back in my day." Like these '90s kids who talk about "Oh, everything in the '90s was better," and then you look at half of the stuff like Space Goose, or you even look into action shows like Big Bad Beetleborgs and Mask Rider, which basically bastardized the Mask Rider was basically the bastardization of Kamen Rider. Yeah, you look at all these shows back in the 90s, and there was a lot of terrible shows. A lot of great groundbreaking shows like Animaniacs, Batman the Animated Series. But they shit on new shows just I won't say out of them being new. They think, oh, it's new, so it's not as good as what I grew up with.
No, that's not always the case. I mean, like you mentioned Batman. I mean, I go back and I can watch the 90s Batman, and I love it because I grew up with it. But I'm not going to sit there a few years ago there was the Batman show. There was a revamped version, kind of a newer Bruce Wayne, younger, kind of becoming Batman. And I love that show. I thought it was great. They took it and reimagined it.
Thought it was okay. I hated the art style. I hated how sharp and pointy it looked.
Yeah, it was all edgy and just
and just human faces should never be
their chin line, their jawline should not be a triangle.
They always had absurd jawlines.
Or especially the Joker with his here and these big teeth, I got red eyeballs too.
I actually love that Joker just because we're getting way off Ninja Turtles. I love that Joker just because he was just so crazy and just like nothing else we ever saw. It's no Mark Hamill.
No, but it's different.
Did I call him Mark Hamill?
Mark Hamill.
Okay. Anyway, getting back to Ninja Turtles. We grew up with Ninja Turtles. These guys...
We just grew up on Cartoon Network. That was it. I thought it was the only channel out there for kids. Because I never picked up Nickelodeon, Disney, or Fox. I never picked up... I just thought Cartoon Network was it. I thought it was the only channel that was for kids. And I never went anywhere near any of the other stuff that people would talk about.
And it's just... I had access to a lot of those other channels. So most of my childhood is Fox Kids. Tiny little bit of Kids WB. That was a little later on. That was 2000, I think. Grew up on Nickelodeon. Grew up on Fox Kids. Hell, even USA had a kids block back then.
Huh.
keep in mind, a lot of these were still done by the same. I guess I should say this. A lot of those cartoons that were on there were done by the same people who did Duckman. If you remember Duckman, that was very adult orientated.
No,
Oh, okay.
Never heard of it.
no.
Okay, look it up. It's actually a really funny show. It was on USA, but that's probably why no one saw it, because nobody watched USA unless you watched Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Or reruns of Law and Order. But they made shows like Jumanji, the animated series, which was really good. It was a lot darker and more subtle than the movie. With who was in that? That was
what's his name?
Robin Williams.
Yeah, Robin Williams. Thank you.
So,
And Kristen Dunst was actually in that movie too. Yeah. I didn't realize until later on. I was watching the pre. I was like, "That's Kristen." What? I watched the movie when I was a kid. I didn't even connect the dots there. You know, you go back a lot of times on that, and you realize that people were involved in it that you like now, and you didn't realize it was them at the time. And it's a very nostalgic, kind of deja vu feeling, you could say, in a way. And it's weird, you know. Like you were mentioning WB, that was my main thing through my early teens, all the way up pretty much through my late teens, of cartoons that I watched. Because that's the only station I had at that time.
no, they showed like the Looney Tunes and stuff like that, right?
They had, you know, the cartoon alignment changed all the time.
They had
Warner Bros, right?
Yeah, it was Warner Bros. Yeah.
Like the only I remember from watching it was Jackie Chan.
Yeah,
That's what I was about to say.
Awesome show. I used to love watching that, you know. Like, I love Haku with all his, quoting every attack he was doing. You know, like, donkey punch, mule kick! You know, it was hilarious, you know, and it was a great show. But there were also a lot of shows on WB I didn't like, you know.
Osmosis Jones.
I actually liked that show because it was just kind of kooky, but I mean, there was other shows they started bringing in I couldn't stand, like Codename Kids Next Door I watched. And I'm like, it's okay, but it's kind of kooky, you know?
Or they're still fresh.
Or the Boom Crew was something, they brought that, and I was like, I couldn't even watch it.
The Boom Crew. Oh, God, I remember how they said it. The Boom Crew!
Yeah, it would get stuck in your head, and you usually would the Boom Crew, boom, boom. I'd be like, oh, now it's going to be going to my all day.
Lucha Lucha.
I did like that show, you know.
That was fun. I like that.
I actually did like it.
You know, because it's...
Sign the flea's belly.
The flea's spleen. Oh, no, flea, the flea. You know, he carried the show.
I don't know if that character was racist or not.
They should have just named the show The Flea. It would
work.
But I don't even
remember any other characters from that show. I remember his dad.
Yep.
Anyway, getting back to Ninja Turtles, because we're getting way off.
We're bringing up old nostalgic cartoons now.
We should have just made that the theme of the show.
Old nostalgic cartoons brought to you by The Hobby Show.